Good morning, everyone. Today we have Officer Brager here to join us, and he'll be speaking on what it's like to be a police officer within the city. He'll be answering any questions you all have, so please address them in the chat box. He'll be discussing what impact COVID-19 has had on our police officers' infrastructure within the city, as well as any highs and any lows of the day. Once again, please put all lines on mute. If you have any questions that you'd like to have him address, put them in the chat box and I'll ask him at that time. Thank you so much, Officer Brager, for joining us.
Of course. Good morning. I'm like she said, I'm Officer Brager with the Victoria Police Department. I've been a police officer for right at 15 years now. It's a wonderful career that I have. I'm very proud of my career. I love it. Wouldn't rather do anything else. A little bit about my career here is when I started, I was a little bit older than most people. The average person that starts as a police officer is usually around mid 20s, maybe even early 20s lately. I was about 30, I guess 34. What happened with me was I got laid off from Invista, and I wanted to do, I wasn't one of the typical, I've always wanted to help people be a police, be a cop. I just wanted to get into a career that had no chance of getting laid off or ebbs and tides of oil, lows of oil field and things like that. I wanted a definite something that was going to be there all the time. And my wife, we had just gotten married. She had ideas that I was going to go back to college to be a teacher, and I didn't really want to go back to college for any length of time. I had already started college, but I didn't want to go for a long time. And I happened to be on the Victoria College website and I saw that the police academy was 16 weeks long, and I was like, that's for me. So that's really, I know it's not the typical and sometimes not the college career people's idea of perfect situation, but I did it because the police academy was 16 weeks long. So I talked to her. Of course, then I did a lot more research, and I did some ride-alongs and things like that with people and with some officers here at Victoria Police Department. And after the very first ride-along, I was like, oh my gosh, this is fun. I do want to do it. So I was able to join the police academy at the Victoria College, where I studied more and did more in that 16 weeks than I did my entire high school career probably. But I graduated and very fortunate, got hired on with Victoria Police Department, where I started my career as a patrolman. And I did that for, I did it for about 3 years, and I got promoted to senior patrolman, where, and then I was a field training instructor where I instructed new officers, all the new officers that came on, not all of them, but any new officers that came at that time, taught them how to be a police. I was on the street for about almost 10 years. And then I went to a specialized unit, a traffic safety unit, where I worked all the fatalities and DWI crashes and things like that for a few years. And more recently, I've been assigned to the training division, and specifically the recruitment coordinator. And another one of the hats that I wear is the public information officer. So I do things like this, but I respond to all major scenes, and I'm like the liaison between the media and the police department. I'm also in charge of all of our social media platforms and things like that. So those are my titles. Oh, one more is I'm also a crisis hostage negotiator, that I respond to any type of crisis where people are maybe blocked. Very rarely is it a true hostage situation. More times than not, it's just a person having some type of mental crisis, and I go and try to talk them out peacefully is my resolution. So that's my story. And feel free, if you have any questions throughout this whole entire thing, please don't be afraid to ask, because it's extremely informal for me on my part anyway. But I'd like to answer any questions. So are there any questions so far?
At this
No?
time, I don't see anything, Officer Brager, but I'll let you know when they come in.
Okay. So like I said, I went to the Victoria College Police Academy, which is that's where you learn to do a lot of different on paper laws. Like you learn very specific things about the penal code and the code of criminal procedures and the way law works and things like that. And basically, the Victoria College has a phenomenal police academy here, and I like to brag a little bit. I'm also an adjunct instructor at the Victoria College Police Academy. Several of our officers are adjunct instructors there. As a recruitment coordinator, we recruit a lot of cadets from the Victoria College Police Academy just because we know that it's a very superior academy in Texas. And when you leave the academy in Victoria, unlike some other local academies around, you're really prepared to go into the field training program. So once you get done with your police academy, then in Victoria, which is the only agency I've worked for, you're hired as a police cadet for the next 16 to 18 weeks. Then you are actually assigned to a field training officer, which, like I said a while ago, I was one of those, where there's different progressions that you go through. You start out where you do absolutely nothing. You sit there, ride out with the police officer for a couple of weeks, kind of observe and take notes, lots and lots of notes. When you finish that, then you go to what's called 25%, and where you kind of take on 25% of the work. And every single day you're getting very critically graded by the field training officer. In fact, it's quite annoying, I'm certain, for the cadets. But we're really being critical of them when we're grading them, because we want, of course, to produce the most safest, best self-sufficient officer when they get on their own. So you do about 4 weeks of 25%, 4 weeks of 50%, 4 weeks of 75%, or 2 weeks of each of those. Then the last is you do 100%, where the field training officer actually doesn't even wear a uniform, because we don't want the customers, whether they're good guys or bad guys that need police, we don't want them to know that we're the police. We want the cadet to actually handle everything. So they handle everything, and then hopefully ultimately at the end of the 4 months or so, then they get promoted to police officer. I already told you guys why I chose this field, not the stereotypic. I want to help people. I want to make a difference. Although I want to and do, I wanted to do something that's extremely stable, and it was evident just more recently in the COVID-19 pandemic, where we worked more than we did before. So we're the epitome of an essential worker, I would say. So it was definitely the right thing that I did. I saw a question. I don't know where to see that question again. It was in the chat box, I think. Was there a question?
Yeah, I'm going to read it to you. It says, as a high school student, what opportunities are there for a student to get more hands-on learning and training?
Great question. So another one of my hats that I wear at work is I actually started and am the leader of our it's the Victoria Police Department Explorer Post 306, which is under the umbrella of Boy Scouts, although it's not just boys, nor do Boy Scouts have anything to do with it. Actually, it's just under the umbrella of Boy Scouts, where we have a program for high school curricular students that they could be homeschooled or public or private or whatever, just so long as they're in a high school curriculum. 14 years of age to 18 years of age can certainly join this program. Like I said, it's called the Explorer program, and it's a really neat thing. This is only our second year, and it got cut extremely short, which was really unfortunate. But it's basically a mini police academy for young people of that age, where they come. We do everything from teach them how to do traffic stops, both misdemeanor and felony traffic stops. We have a range day where we teach these kids gun safety and ultimately get to fire some rounds. Building clearing. We have the drug dogs. We have the narcotics guys come and give them demonstrations. Basically, we're preparing them to kind of be a little bit of a police officer, but probably more importantly, teaching them the a lot of different aspects of what it's like to be a police officer, in hopes that we can bridge the gap between that they're 18 and 21 when they can be a police officer, so they can, our ultimate goal is to, of course, hopefully get some of these young adults to stay in Victoria or come to Victoria Police Department in the end. So that's a great opportunity. They get to help us do a lot of stuff. We get uniforms. They march in parades with us. They help us direct traffic, like at Boot Fest and things like that. We have some fundraisers and things, and even a competition that we do, and that gets graded. But it's a really neat program. We try to keep it around 20 people. That's very manageable, so we can keep so each person can get a full attention. So is that Kathy? It says, what did that say, Martin, about continuing education?
I got it on this one. There's some more above. It says, what if the high school doesn't offer the Explorer program? How can they get involved otherwise?
Okay, great. Well, it has nothing to do with the high school, so it doesn't really matter if your high school doesn't offer it. It's nothing to do with the high school. Although VISD does have a great career. Martin might be able to tell you a little bit more about it, but they have a good law enforcement club. But the Explorer program, again, has nothing to do with that. So all you really need to do is, and I apologize, we're actually working on ramping up for next year's Explorer program. We don't have a lot of specific information on dates when we're going to start accepting, and we don't accept everyone. We run a criminal history. We have to do the applicants have to do a physical agility course, a dummy drag. We actually have an interview process, which leads me to also say that so excuse me, this doesn't just teach law enforcement. I'm proud to say that it also teaches just a few life skills, like interview process and things like that. Whether you want to be a police officer when you're done with this or not, it certainly does help. In fact, one of my great stories is one of my Explorers one time, and Explorers is a nationwide deal. And my bride, who looks at a lot of college applications and things, she says, and I know for a fact with jobs that, and when somebody lists an Explorer, that they were an Explorer and graduated from the program and things, that looks really good on not only college applications but just regular job applications. We had a young man that applied, and he was actually late for a meeting, one of our meetings one time, and he said that he was in his interview, and one of the questions they asked was if you're a part of any club or organization. Well, he said he was an Explorer, and it just so happens that the manager or owner or whatever had been an Explorer, and that he really thought that tipped the scales in his favor. So it has nothing to do with your high school. So if you're interested, I would contact Karen Pacina or myself. You can call the training unit at the police department at 361-485-3799.
Now, Officer Braga, what about students who live outside the Victoria area? Since we do target a 7-county region, would they also be able to participate in the Victoria program, or do they need to contact their local police department?
No, we actually had one of my Explorers that graduated last year was from Yorktown. We had some from Industrial and places like that. I mean, it's just a matter of whether you can come to the meetings and come to the different events that we do. We usually have meetings 2 to 3 times a month, and they're in the evenings, typically from 6 to 8. So no, we take anyone that's willing to drive and get here. There are other Explorer posts. Like if I lived in Corpus, I would certainly go to the Corpus post, but any of the surrounding counties, of course, we would take them.
Okay, we have a question here about inclusiveness and diversity. How does the PD enforce inclusivity and diversity, especially for females or an individual with a disability?
Well, females or older people or minorities, of course, we're completely an equal opportunity employer. We have, I bet and I don't have the exact number, but certainly the female population of the Victoria Police Department has increased exponentially over the past, I don't know, I'd say at least 10 years. When I started, there was I think 2 female officers. Now, gosh, I bet there's, I don't know, 10 or 12 at least female officers, and they rank all the way from, we have 2 in the police academy right now that we're sponsoring through the police academy that's about to graduate, all the way up to one of our 3 captains, which is, it's the chief, deputy chief, and then captain. So it's the number 3 on the totem pole is a female. So yeah, females are no problems. Persons with disabilities, as long as you can pass our physical agility course, which to get into the police academy, you have to be able to run 1.5 miles in under 18 minutes and 39 seconds. You have to be able to do sit-ups and push-ups, a number of them. I don't have the exact number within a minute. That's all for the Victoria College Police Academy. You have to take a written test, a typing test. You have to be able to type 25 words per minute. You have to be able to pass a spelling test, which ironically, it's not a hard spelling test, but we lose a lot of people to the spelling test because I think that, especially younger folks, because they don't have to spell quite so much anymore. Everything auto corrects and you type on your phone and it fixes everything that's wrong. So we take a spelling and typing test with Victoria Workforce Solutions that's administered by them, and so I always tell, and my poor daughters, they have all the spelling check and all that turned off on their phones and stuff. So I know that they're forced to learn how to spell, but we also have a credit check. You cannot have it more than $1,000 in active collections. That doesn't mean like your house mortgage or anything like that. Active collections, of course, is if you had something that got turned over to a collection agency. But you have to be able to do the sit-ups, push-ups, run, and then we also have an agility course where you have to jump over a 6-foot wall, a 4-foot wall twice, go through a simulated window, go on a balance beam, and a short run, and you have to do it in 90 seconds. And you have to be able to pull a 180-pound dummy 25 feet. But if you can do all those things, that's the requirements. Those are the requirements right there. You have to be 18 years old. In Texas, to be a peace officer, you have to be at least 18 years old with 60 college credit hours, or over 21. Or in Victoria, so that's to be a peace officer. Now, to go to the Victoria College Police Academy, they have their own requirements, and that is you have to be 21 by graduation date of the academy. So those are the only parameters. You can be as old as you want, as long as you can pass those things.
Okay. So what would be the number one piece of advice that you would give students in high school that are interested in law enforcement?
Certainly start watching your grades and things, and it may sound trivial and everything, but watch. One of the big 2 things that get a lot of applicants that want to be police officers that really disqualifies them is your keep your credit good. Don't mess up your credit, because it takes quite some time to repair credit once it's been messed up. And as silly as it sounds, really watch your digital footprint. Start being very careful of that. In fact, I give classes twice a year to both or several of the high schools around, and that's one of the things that I tell these kids. Really watch your digital footprint, because when we go back and start looking at backgrounds, which we do extraordinarily thorough backgrounds on everyone, that stuff doesn't go away. And although these people think that it's private or secure or whatever, it's not. We can get all of that stuff. So just really watch how you act, how you make yourself out to look, and don't really be careful of your digital footprint. I know that you would think that wouldn't be a big deal, but it truly is. And I think that's evident. I think that's, with lots of careers. So no matter what you're going to do, watch that.
The next question we have is, what are their continuing education requirements for police officers?
So all law enforcement, all peace officers in the state of Texas are governed by the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement, or TCOL as it's commonly referred to. When you graduate a police academy, you have so many, they're called TCOL hours, that's required to become a peace officer. Then there's different steps. You have your basic peace officer license. Then your goal is to, of course, get to masters. You have basic, intermediate, basic, intermediate, and then masters. And masters takes not only years of service, but more importantly, hours, TCOL hours, and you have to amass a bunch of them. So TCOL mandates that we have, I can't give you the exact amount of hours every single year, but we are constantly, there's the mandated TCOL hours that every agency, law enforcement agency in Texas has to meet. But most, and I can speak for Victoria for sure. I mean, I have over 6,000 TCOL hours, which is a whole lot. Of course, I've been doing it for 15 years, and they accumulate over the years. So it's funny. I just watched a police officer pull someone over right here. So anyway, yes, I want to say it's 80 hours a year is what TCOL mandates that we have to have continuing education as far as, and it's usually that those continuing education hours are usually prompted by some large scale media type thing. Like we had a couple of years ago, if you remember the Sandra Bland incident. So we all had to go to the Sandra Bland Act classes and things like that. So your agency is responsible for getting you all of your continuing education hours. And if you want to